There is a particular kind of anxiety that arrives when nothing is wrong. You are sitting in a quiet room. No one is threatening you. Nothing on the calendar explains it. And yet there it is, a tightness in the chest, a low hum of dread, a sense that something is coming, though you could not for your life say what. You scan your day for the cause. You check your messages, your bank balance, your relationships, looking for the threat the feeling insists must be there, and you find nothing, which somehow makes it worse. Because now, you are not only anxious, you are anxious about being anxious for no reason at all. You decide something must be wrong with you specifically. Some chemical defect, some weakness other people do not have. But almost 200 years ago, a strange, brilliant, heartbroken man in Copenhagen looked at exactly this feeling, the dread with no object, the anxiety you cannot explain, and he came to the opposite conclusion. He decided it was not a malfunction. He decided it was not even, at bottom, a problem. He gave it a name, and he argued that the reason you cannot point to what is frightening you is the single most important thing about it, that this nameless feeling is not the sign that something has gone wrong with your life, but the sign that you are awake to the one thing about being human that almost everyone spends their whole life trying not to feel. His name was Søren Kierkegaard. And before you try to make this feeling go away, he would want you to understand what it actually is. Because it is not noise. It is a message. And it has been mistranslated your entire life. Start with the distinction that everything else depends on, the one almost no one makes. We use one word, anxiety, for two completely different things. Kierkegaard separated them with surgical precision. There is fear, and fear always has an object. You are afraid of the dog, the deadline, the diagnosis, the man following you down the street. Fear points at something. You can name it, and because you can name it, you can in principle do something about it. And then there is the other thing, the thing he called angest in Danish, the root of the word the whole world would later borrow as angst. And anxiety, he said, is altogether different from fear, because anxiety has no object. Its object is nothing. Not nothing as in no big deal. Nothing as in no thing, the absence of any particular thing at all. This is why you cannot explain it. You are not failing to find the cause. There is no cause to find, because the feeling was never pointing at a thing in the first place. It is pointing at nothing. And the question that unlocks the whole of Kierkegaard is, what is this nothing that you can feel it so precisely and dread it so completely? His answer is one of the most quietly devastating sentences in all of philosophy. The nothing you are feeling is your own freedom. Anxiety, he wrote, is the dizziness of freedom. And to understand what he meant, picture a man standing at the edge of a high cliff looking down into a deep ravine. He feels dizzy. We assume the dizziness comes from the height, from the abyss below him. But Kierkegaard makes a sharper observation. The reason for the dizziness, he says, is just as much in his own eye as in the abyss, for suppose he had simply not looked down. The vertigo is not in the cliff, it is in the looking. It is what happens when a creature capable of choice peers over the edge of its own possibility and realizes in its body before its mind that nothing is stopping it from jumping. Not morality, Not sense, not survival, nothing but its own will. That is the dizziness. Not the fear of falling, the dread of the freedom to fall. And here is the part of the image that almost everyone leaves out, the part that takes it from a clever metaphor to something that explains your life. Kierkegaard does not stop at dizziness. He says that in this dizziness, freedom succumbs. The man at the edge swoons. He reaches out and grabs at something solid, something finite, anything to steady himself, and when he comes back to himself, Kierkegaard says, he finds that he is guilty. The vertigo is not a moment you simply pass through. You grab at something to make the feeling stop, and what you grab determines who you become. So when that nameless dread rises in the quiet room, this is what is actually happening in Kierkegaard's reading. You are not under threat. You are standing, without realizing it, at the edge of your own freedom. You are feeling in your body the vertigo of being a creature who must choose, who could do anything, and who has been given almost no instructions for how. That is the nothing you cannot point to. It is not an absence. It is the most real thing about you. It is the felt weight of being able. And notice what it does not point at. It does not point at the past. Guilt and regret point backward at what you already did. Fear points at the present, at the thing in the room. But anxiety, Kierkegaard saw, always points forward at the future. The possible, he wrote, corresponds completely to the future. For freedom, the possible is the future, and for time, the future is the possible. Read slowly. That is one of the most useful things anyone has ever said about your own mind. When you feel anxious and nothing is wrong, you are feeling the future, not a specific future event, but the sheer unwrittenness of what comes next. The future has no shape yet. It is pure possibility, and possibility has no edges to hold on to. You are not anxious about a thing that is coming. You are anxious about the fact that anything could be coming, and that you, partly, are the one who has to decide. You are feeling tomorrow before it has a face. This is why Kierkegaard made a claim that sounds at first almost perverse. He said anxiety is not a flaw in human beings. It is the precise measure of how human you are. The more anxiety, he wrote, the more spirit, and the greater the anxiety, the greater the man. He meant that a creature with no inner life, no self, no awareness of its own possibility, feels no angst at all. An animal does not lie awake, dreading the openness of its life. A person, fully asleep to themselves, fully absorbed in routine and distraction and the opinion of the crowd, feels less of it too, not because they are healthier, but because they have turned the volume down on the very faculty that would feel it. The capacity for this dread is the capacity for selfhood. It is the same organ. So the nameless anxiety you have been treating as proof that something is broken in you is closer to the opposite. It is proof that there is a self in there large enough to stand before its own freedom and feel the drop. The greatness of the anxiety, he said, is a prophecy of the greatness of what could come. Kierkegaard found the oldest version of this, not in a clinic, but in the oldest story we have. He returned, again and again, to the moment in the garden before anything goes wrong, the moment when the first human is told, simply "Do not eat from that tree." And he asks a question no one asks. At that moment, Adam does not yet know good from evil. He has done nothing. So the prohibition cannot make him guilty. He cannot even understand the concept yet. What then does the command actually do to him? And Kierkegaard's answer is startling. The prohibition awakens in him the possibility of freedom. Before the word, he simply existed. After it, a new and dizzying fact hangs in the air. I could. There is a thing I am able to do. The forbidden is now possible, and the possible is now felt. And what Adam feels in that gap between the command and any action, before sin, before the fall, is anxiety, the alarming possibility of being able. This is the detail that should change how you hear your own dread. You do not feel anxious because of something you did. The anxiety comes first, before any deed. You feel it because you can. The terror is not crime, it is potential. Now, if all of this only told you that your anxiety is normal, Kierkegaard would not be worth 20 minutes of your life. The competitors stop roughly here. Anxiety is part of life, so make peace with it. Find a passion, take your leap. But Kierkegaard goes somewhere stranger and far more demanding. He says anxiety, faced rightly, is the only honest teacher you will ever have. Whoever is educated by anxiety, he wrote, is educated by possibility. Think about what that means. Every other teacher in your life flatters you a little. Other people, the crowd, your own comforting plans, they all tell you finite things. You will be fine. Here is the 5-step method. This relationship, this job, this purchase will finally make the feelings stop. And every one of those promises is finite, which means every one of them can fail you, and quietly does. Possibility is the one teacher that cannot lie to you, because the moment it offers you a finite reassurance, it also shows you that reassurance dissolving. It refuses to let you rest in anything smaller than the truth. And so, Kierkegaard says, the person who is genuinely schooled by anxiety, who does not flee it, who lets it teach, learns to demand of life absolutely nothing, and therefore stops being at the mercy of every finite thing that could be taken away. He has been educated to his own infinitude. Whoever is educated by possibility, he wrote, is educated according to his infinitude, and whoever is educated only by the finite, by props and crowds and guarantees, loses the infinite and loses himself. The dread you have been running from is the curriculum, but running from it is exactly what we are built to do. And Kierkegaard mapped the escape route too. He had a name for the way a frightened self seals itself off. He called it shut-upness, a locked, reticent inwardness that pulls the shutters down and refuses to be disclosed. And he said something genuinely unsettling about the person who has done this. They do not, in the end, become anxious about danger. They become anxious about the good. The sealed self dreads being opened more than it dreads the dark. It is more frightened of help than of staying sick, more frightened of being truly seen and known than of the loneliness. Kierkegaard even called this condition the demonic and defined the demonic precisely as anxiety about the good. This is the mechanism underneath avoidance, and you can feel it in yourself if you are honest. The reason you do not say the thing out loud, the reason you do not reach out, do not open the door, keep the room locked from the inside. The good, being known, being free, being helped, signifies the restoration of your freedom, and freedom is precisely what the shut-up self does not will. It would rather manage the dread alone forever than risk the terror of being opened. Naming this in yourself is the beginning of the way out, because the trap, the real trap, is believing there is a version of your life with no anxiety in it, a calm, settled, riskless existence on the other side of getting everything sorted. Kierkegaard's whole work is a demolition of that fantasy. The calm life with no dread in it is not peace. It is despair you have simply stopped feeling. In his companion book, the one he called The Sickness Unto Death, he describes despair not as sadness, but as a misrelation in the self. And he says, the most common form of it by far is the one no one recognizes, because the specific feature of despair, he wrote, is that it is unaware of being despair. The people most deeply lost are very often the ones who would swear they are fine, pleasant, busy, distracted, sealed. Not feeling the anxiety is not the cure. It can be the disease in its most advanced and most comfortable form, which means the nameless dread you can still feel is not your failure. It may be the last honest signal getting through the part of you that is still awake, still relating to itself, still refusing to go quietly numb. So what does Kierkegaard actually ask of you? Standing at the edge, dizzy with the dread that will not name itself, not to cure it, not to manage it into silence, he asks you to stop grabbing, to stop reaching in the swoon for the nearest finite thing, the distraction, the certainty, the crowd's approval, the version of yourself that other people have already approved, just to make the vertigo stop. Because every time you grab, you trade a piece of your freedom for a moment of steadiness, and you wake up, as he said, a little more guilty, a little more lost, a little less yourself. The alternative is not to feel less anxious. It is to take the step while the dizziness is still in your chest. He put the whole of it into one line. Not to venture, he wrote, is to lose oneself, and to venture in the highest sense is precisely to become conscious of oneself. You are going to feel the dread either way. That is the part no one tells you. Hide from it, seal the room, grab at the finite, and you lose yourself slowly and quietly and comfortably. Or turn and face the nothing, let it teach you, and take the leap into your own life with the fear still running through you, and become for the first time someone who is actually there to take it. So, the next time it comes in the quiet room, when nothing is wrong, when you cannot for your life explain it, try, just once, not to treat it as a malfunction to be silenced. Consider instead that it is the oldest and most honest thing in you, finally getting a word in, that the reason you cannot point to what is frightening you is that it was never a thing out there. It was the edge of your own freedom. and the open future, and the self you have not yet dared to become, all pressing on you at once. The anxiety you cannot explain has a name. Kierkegaard gave it one. And once you know what it is actually saying, the only thing left to do is the bravest, simplest thing there is. Stop grabbing for the ground, let yourself feel the height, and step not after the dizziness ends, but with it into the life that was always only yours to choose.